In today's episode, the dreaded "Can you fix my XYZ" by family members. Spoiler alert, computers require electricity to function. His computer. Email, internet is still down. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The dreaded "Can you fix my XYZ" by family members. It finally happened. I was quite lucky, only having to install Sims every other month on my wife's laptop. Wife, stupid admin pop-up again, why can't I have admin rights? Me, because you can't even next finish a simple installer. Wife, dagger stare. My career is not related to tech support at all, but like every self-respecting geek who grew up in the 90s, I'm handy around most tech, which I was able to hide from my family so far. Fast forward to today, I'm chilling in my beanbag, quietly cursing the sadists behind advent of code while my mom and wife are talking and trying to keep my daughter both alive and entertained. Not an easy job. My mom notices that I have a new laptop I'm using and asks if I got it for Christmas. Quite an innocent question. Then my wife starts bragging that it's her old laptop I saved from the junk pile with a simple battery replacement. My mom suddenly goes into a tirade how sh*TTY her current, personal, laptop is. It's slow, overheats and runs a self-diagnostic on every boot with some warning. She even took it to the IT guys at her work, remember, personal hardware, and they were so rude, they refused to help her. She only spilled some coffee on slash in it. It's not that sticky and covered in nail polish mixed with cigarette ash. After this bombardment, she looks at me expectantly. You can fix it for me, right? I started to weigh my options there. Hey, I can go over and try to save that poor machine. Probably filled with all kind of nasty, battery dying, dust mixed with sugar clinging to everything. B. Tell her to stop bothering the IT guys at work, go to a repair place, who will probably refuse service or rip her off. C. With a sigh, I looked for a Win 10 installation media in my drawers, plugged it into the brand new laptop I'm using and asked her to bathe her granddaughter while the installation finishes. Now I am listening to Cortana's stupid questions while promising myself that this time, I will create a fresh image with all necessary software installed, or at least a chocolatey deployment script. Probably won't happen, like the past N times. Merry Christmas, Mom, and thank you, secretly, as I now have a good excuse for my wife why I need a new gaming laptop, smiley face. Bonus story, there was a stupid mahjong game my mom loved way back. It was a trial version with 30 days. Uninstalling and reinstalling didn't work obviously, however I quickly figured out if I delete all registry entries related to the game the counter will restart. A couple years later, I went to university and unsurprisingly my phone rang in about 2 weeks in. It was my mom. Mahjong is not working. I tried to give as simple instructions as possible. Open Start menu, click on Run, type in regedit, then press Enter. Once the registry editor is open, press F3, type in PGMJ in the search field, press Enter, delete the entry, repeat until there are no more entries. Mom said she got it, hangs up. Phone rings again 5 minutes later. I deleted regedit.exe, but the game still isn't working. Can you fix it? Told her to look for HOMM3.exe on my PC, and we will talk about Mahjong when I go home for Christmas. She haven't played Mahjong since then, but regularly beats me in all of the Heroes games. Sometimes even in Civ. Perks of being a semi-retired widow with way too much time on her hands, I guess? Spoiler alert, computers require electricity to function. This is the first time I've ever written up something like this on Reddit, so apologies if it is a little rough around the edges. I work in IT at a school district, in a team that consists of just 2 people, including me. As you can imagine, having such a small team covering multiple campuses can make things pretty hectic. Add some rather unpleasant people to the mix, and things can be pretty stressful for us. One particular week, I was given the task of going to every classroom in the district, labs included, and setting up the PCs that have been pulled out due to the floors being cleaned. Unfortunately, we were not the ones who pulled out the desks and PCs, so a lot of the setup and cable-managed desktops turned into jumbled messes thrown back onto their desks. From people having their desks put into awful locations multiple feet away from network jacks and power, and tangled cables that will forever haunt my nightmares, I definitely had my work cut out for me. But I managed to get the job done. Cables may not have been expertly managed with cable ties and whatnot, but all the PCs I set back up were double-checked by myself to ensure they turned on and operated properly. Most people were perfectly fine with how I set their PCs back up. Of course though, there is always that one person that you can't please. That one person who hates the IT department with a passion. That particular individual was far from happy with their new setup. They decided to issue a complaint in which they claimed their cables were all over the place, their speakers were no longer functioning, and now their PC no longer powers on. I knew there was no way any of this was possible from my end, as I thoroughly checked each PC I worked on, but I decided to be the nice IT guy and check it out. Luckily, they were not in their classroom, so I was able to investigate with no interruptions. The first thing I noticed was they had completely moved both the computer and the desk to the other side of the room. That checks off the first complaint, as the cable disaster was caused by her moving the PC herself instead of calling us. Next I moved on to seeing if the PC powered on, which it did not. Intrigued, I checked the power cable, which was not even plugged into the power strip. I wish I was making this up. Either that was done on purpose, or they don't realize computers need electricity to function. After being plugged into power, the PC booted up, with everything working, including the speakers. I reported my findings and left the building. Since then, we luckily have not been bothered by this individual. I'll never understand why people act like this, but hey, it keeps us employed, laughing face. His computer. An elderly gentleman had his PC set up in a sort of shed outside. It was insulated, carpet on the walls, warm and generally a nice place, but full of tools, half-finished projects, self-made shelves, you know the drill. An old guy doing old guy stuff. Anyway, his PC had fallen 5 feet from a shelf it was on, taking the monitor with it. The case was dented, the motherboard had snapped in half, the CPU, socket, and its heatsink had ripped free of its retaining screws, and the monitor was cracked clean across the screen. A competitor had got there first, but said it needed replacing, it couldn't be fixed. The old guy didn't want that. As the old gentleman berated the incompetence of anyone who couldn't just hammer it back into shape, I asked if I could take it with me and come back in a few days. It needed some work in the workshop. He was happy with this. He was just happy to have someone who knew what he was doing handle it. I took it back, for days later, fully working. All the guy's files were there, his desktop background of his granddaughter was there, his silly screensavers and weird desktop icon positions. All there. The competitor called me how the $% did you fix that? He said it looks the same through the side window, that it always did. He even said you got the cracks out of his monitor. I brushed off the competitor. We drank together sometimes, but I didn't agree with his upsell and heavy margins. We're in a deprived area, we need to help, not hurt. The hard disk had survived, so I replaced the motherboard, setting its NIC to max spoof and BIOS, to get Win 7 Home Premium to not need reactivation. The CPU survived, so did the heatsink. Replaced the PSU which had been hammered, and bought an identical monitor. eBay got me an identical case side panel to fix his smashed acrylic window. Finally, the monitor was a fairly common 21-inch console, cheap as chips. Okay, how much did you charge for all that? $600? He could have bought a new computer for that. That's not what he wanted though. He wanted his computer. I gave it him. Email, internet is still down. This just happened, and while I understand why it did, it still makes me facepalm. My workplace has two locations. I work at the main one while this takes place in the second location. This location has been having lots of issues with their internet recently. I get a text from someone there telling me the internet is out. The fix is simple this time, and is just a quick reboot of the modem. When it went out, I sent a company-wide email letting everyone know the internet is down. When it comes back up, I send another one letting everyone know it's back up. Then I get this email. Hi you/generic Chinese name. I just looked on my computer, and we do not have internet access.